Hello and welcome to another edition of the TimeFlies podcast. I am your host, Dariel. If you're checking out this episode on any of the podcast streaming platforms, first and foremost, I want to say thank you so much. Second, this episode, we will be talking about the Bikeriders. I actually just went to go check it out last night, starring Austin Butler, Tom Hardy, Jodie Comer, and surprisingly enough, a bunch of other people are in this movie. A lot of cameos. We got Norman Reedus, we got Michael Shannon, we got my boy Emery Cohen from The Place Beyond the Pines, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. But real quick, side note, Emery Cohen was like in the movie substantially, and it took me like 45 minutes to realize that it was him. So he did, I don't know if he added some weight for the character, or I don't know if it was just him. But I just didn't realize it was him until like, I don't know, an hour into the movie. I was like, wait, is that Emery Cohen? But anyway, the Bikeriders went to go check it out last night. I definitely wanted to record this episode while my thoughts are fresh. Wanted to give my thoughts, my takes, while everything was fresh. But before I go into that, of course, I got to give you the breakdown of what the movie's about. So, the Bikeriders, first and foremost, it's based off of a photo book of the same name, and the author of the photo book is Danny Lyon, and the author of the photo book is Danny Lyon, and the photo book was based off of the real life motorcycle gang of the Outlaws Motorcycle Gang. And in this movie, instead of calling the motorcycle gang the Outlaws, they're called the Vandals Club. And the author of the photo book, Danny Lyon, he travels with the Vandals Club, documenting their life from around 1965 to 1973. And in the movie is basically from the perspective of Jodie Comer's character. And just to give you how the movie starts out, again, spoiler warning, of course. So the movie starts out with them really setting the tone as far as like Austin Butler, whose name is Benny. And it's also setting the tone of just the gang, the motorcycle gang, and just like how true the members of the gang are really going to stay loyal to their colors. And the movie starts out with Austin Butler in a bar, and he ends up getting his ass whooped, like to the point where like a bar chair is being hit on the back of his head, to the point where somebody is like taking a chair and literally breaking his ankle. Like there were certain moments in this movie where I was like, oh, I didn't expect that to come. It was a little bit more violent than I expected, but I'm going to be going into a lot of different places. I'm going to be going all over the place, so stick with me, guys. But going to Jodie Comer's character, Kathy, she's kind of basically narrating the movie. Like I said earlier, the movie goes from 1965 to 1973. And Kathy, Jodie Comer's character, is talking about how she met Benny, which is Austin Butler's character, how she met Benny, how she met Johnny, which Johnny is Tom Hardy's character, how Johnny was the leader of the group, and how Johnny had a huge control over Benny and the rest of the gang. And that's something that I found a little surprising. Going into the movie, I really thought it was really on Austin Butler's shoulders. But after watching the movie really is on Jodie Comer's shoulders slash Tom Hardy. Jodie Comer and Tom Hardy were definitely the two leading actors in this movie. I would definitely put probably Jodie Comer one, Tom Hardy number two, and then Austin Butler number three. And the reason why I wanted to watch this movie was actually because of Austin Butler. Austin Butler, obviously I like movies. You guys, hopefully, if you guys like watching me review all these movies that I'm talking about, I like talking about actors, their process. I like to see how they portray their characters, if they made me believe in them. And Austin Butler right now, I feel like he's next up in Hollywood. I feel like Hollywood really has him as a next leading man. He was in Dune. Obviously, he was Elvis, which I never saw that movie, but I still have that on my list. He was in the most recently Apple TV show, Masters of the Air, and I think Barry Keoghan is in that movie as well. So Austin Butler, I feel like he's like next up in Hollywood, and everybody's trying to have him as the next leading man. And I believe it might be like a little bit of a fight between him and Glenn Powell. Glenn Powell's going crazy right now in Hollywood. It Man is a movie on Netflix that came out about like 2, 3 weeks ago. I definitely got to do a review on that. But going back to Austin Butler, I went into this movie because I wanted to see I wanted him to just prove it to me. I wanted to see, just me personally, I just wanted to see if he had the acting chops. And I wanted to see if he deserves to be one of those leading men in Hollywood. And going back to Elvis, I haven't seen Elvis. It's on my list. But I don't know, man. From what I've heard from Elvis and the whole Austin Butler and the Elvis accent, like he had a hard time of shaking it off, and now it's a part of his just daily accent and daily dialect. Like to me, that just felt like a huge Oscar nomination ploy. He did get nominated. He didn't end up winning. I forgot who won. But I felt like the publicist and his team were just really milking it, just trying to show everybody like the depths that he went to into really displaying Elvis and really embodying Elvis. And I don't know, man. When I hear stuff like that, I'm just like a little turned off. I'm just like, dude, like really? Like you're gonna throw that at us to try and make us go see the movie? But it might not have even been him. It could have just been his team, just really like putting together all those stories so he could really stand out. But man, Austin Butler in this movie, like he did a good job. I liked his performance. But to be honest, I don't really know if I saw a lot of him. I don't really know if I saw a lot of his performance because, like I said earlier, Jodie Comer and Tom Hardy, like they're the ones that, like, I don't want to say Jodie Comer definitely carried the movie. Tom Hardy, I wouldn't say that, but I just feel like Tom Hardy was in a little bit more scenes, and the scenes that he was in had a little bit more weight to them. Austin Butler, I just felt like in a lot of the scenes that he was in, he was kind of like in the corner, just brooding. And like when he did speak, he had like 5 words. It was just a lot of like facial expressions, and I didn't really see him get to interact with Tom Hardy as much as I wanted to, especially with Jodie Comer. I feel like there were perfect opportunities to help build and show the relationship between Jodie Comer, Kathy, and Austin Butler, Benny. I feel like there was a lot of opportunity to show the dynamic between them two, and I feel like we were kind of robbed of it. Spoiler warning again. The only scene, in my opinion, that I really saw the dynamic between them two is when Jodie Comer goes to Austin Butler and Jodie Comer is basically telling him, like, yo, I need you to leave the group because there was a particular incident where they were at a party and Jodie Comer almost actually got raped and Austin Butler wasn't around. So Jodie Comer was just like she was saying that she couldn't live like this anymore and she couldn't depend on him. And she really needs to she needs to know that Benny, Austin Butler's character, is going to be there for her rather than the group. And that was like a good, I don't know, maybe like 8 minute scene where they're going back and forth. But within that scene, Austin Butler, again, he's like brooding. He's not really saying anything. He's doing a lot of like face acting. There aren't a lot of words coming from Austin Butler. So I just felt like they kind of missed the ball with that. I just wanted to see a little bit more from Austin Butler. Kind of switching it up now, talking about Tom Hardy. Man, Tom Hardy, man, like I remember, I think it was an article from True Hollywood Reporter, or maybe it was Deadline. They were talking about the accent. So the gang, the Vandals, they actually took place in Chicago. So Tom Hardy had to adapt this Chicago accent. And I'm not from Chicago, I'm from New York all day, every day you heard. But I don't really know what the Chicago accent is. But I remember reading in the article that Tom Hardy, like he got some feedback for his Chicago accent, and it's not that it was bad, but it wasn't great. And then Tom Hardy went on to talk about just like what the accent really represents, and it's not really just about how you sound. The Chicago accent and what he was going for was just like the presence that he had with the accent on screen. And Tom Hardy, man, like I've always known that he's one of the better actors in Hollywood in today's game. Countless examples that I can point to you, but and I really liked it, and I really liked his performance in this movie. Again, going into this movie, I thought it was going to be more an Austin Butler movie, but it ended up being definitely a Jodie Comer movie. But after Jodie Comer, it actually ended up being a Tom Hardy movie. Austin Butler, in my opinion, is probably like the third character as far as like just the amount of screen time that he gets. The one thing I'll never forget about Tom Hardy, actually, he didn't really do anything. He didn't say anything. He didn't. It was actually an interview that Shia LaBeouf did, and I think it was on the Actors Roundtable, that legendary episode with Adam Driver, Robert De Niro, Adam Sandler, Jamie Foxx, Tom Hanks, and Shia. Like that, I watched that episode just kind of every once in a while. I just put it on in the background. But specifically, the topic of Tom Hardy came up, and Shia went on to say that I think it was like one of the hardest coworkers that he had to work with because Tom Hardy and Shia LaBeouf, they worked together on the movie Lawless. Go check it out. It's about the Barabont brothers back in the Prohibition days, where just they were just selling alcohol and making their own moonshine. But Shia LaBeouf, Tom Hardy, Jason Clarke, Jessica Chastain is in that movie. Gary Oldman is in that movie. That movie is definitely a period piece, but it's a fire movie, and the performances in that movie are amazing. But going back to Tom Hardy, in the Actors Roundtable, he goes on to say about Tom Hardy, saying how like when I worked with Tom Hardy, he was a bit of a gorilla on set. Quote. And the moderator asked him like, "What do you mean by that?" And he said that Tom Hardy, he made it be known that when he arrived on set, when everybody else arrived on set, he let it be known that it was his set. He was the best actor on set. He was gonna outperform everybody else. And Shia LaBeouf, if I'm quoting correctly, he said that like it's almost like he went to go pee in the corner to mark his territory. So like, yo, when you hear things like that about particular actors and their process and how they just go about their business, it fascinates me, man, because kind of when I was watching the movie and whenever Tom Hardy was on the screen, I always thought about like the talks that he had with Austin Butler before the director Jeff Nichols yelled action, the conversations that he had with Jodie Comer before the director yelled action. And that stuff kind of goes through my head. And Tom Hardy, like I don't want to say that he's a difficult actor to work with because obviously I never worked with him, but it seems like he's able to bring the best out of whoever's in front of him. Austin Butler, in the few scenes that he has with Tom Hardy, Austin Butler, again, still doing a lot of face acting, but what they were trying to display, the relationship between Tom Hardy's character, Johnny, and Austin Butler's character, Benny, and how much they relied on each other, how much they loved each other. You were definitely able to get that. You were definitely able to feel that off the performance, off the screen, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, the director of the movie, Jeff Nichols, some movies that you guys might know him for, Mud, starring Matthew McConaughey, Alien, starring Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad, who plays Jesse. And then one of my favorite movies, Midnight Special, who stars Adam Driver. Michael Shannon is in that movie, and Michael Shannon is in this movie as a supportive role. But in Midnight Special, basically, Michael Shannon is a father, and his son has these like superpowers. And then the government is after his son and him. And Michael Shannon is really about just learning to let go of his son and learning that, he's not going to be able to control everything, and things in life pop up that you're going to have to just adjust to. It's a really, really nice movie. I think it came out like around 2013, 2014, somewhere around that time. It came out under the radar. But Jeff Nichols and Michael Shannon coming up in this movie, after I realized that Jeff Nichols was a director, it wasn't really a big surprise because they have some sort of like bond, they have some sort of like camaraderie built between them. But moving forward, performances, I would definitely say keep an eye out for Jodie Comer. Jodie Comer definitely does her thing. The movie is really on her shoulders, and I just was not expecting that. I knew that she was going to be a big part of it from the trailers and from the articles that I read, but I just didn't know that she was basically in the entire movie. The entire movie is hers. Tom Hardy definitely shares a little bit in that, but for the most part, it's Jodie Comer's movie. Austin Butler he's an important character in the movie, again, like I keep saying, but he just wasn't on screen as much as I would like him to be. And to me, honestly, the verdict is still out on Austin Butler. I still don't know how I feel about him. I still gotta watch Elvis. I'm not gonna watch Dune Part 2. Like, I don't like that whole. Me personally, one thing that you guys might learn or already know about me is that whole like super sci-fi fictional world, fictional characters. Like, I just can't go with that, especially when it's so far out there in Dune, like Star Wars as well, Star Trek, like stuff like that, where like whole universes are built. Like, I can't do that, man. I just can't do it. It's just a lot of time to spend on something that is not real. And that is to quote Kristen Stewart in the one-on-one actors interview that she did with Shia LaBeouf. Go check out that episode. For Austin Butler, I'm definitely going to be looking forward to see what he's going to be doing next. There is that rumor in Hollywood that there's going to be a Heat Part 2. Michael Mann is going to be directing it again. And the premise of the movie is a younger Al Pacino. I forgot the characters' names, but Adam Driver is rumored to play, I believe it's Al Pacino's character, a younger version of him. And then Austin Butler is rumored to play Robert De Niro's character, a younger version. I could be getting that mixed up, vice versa. But if you watch Heat, you know how much of an amazing crime thriller movie that is. That's definitely a classic. And the first time Al Pacino and Robert De Niro were on screen, it was definitely a moment. But I think every cinema lover, every movie goer would love to see a sequel to Heat, even if it would be considered a prequel. Austin Butler, the verdict for me personally is still out. I'm still going to be checking out for what he does. I'm still going to be looking for the roles that he's picking. That's also going to be telling me something a little bit about him. But you got to respect Austin Butler. As much as I love Shia LaBeouf and as much as he's my favorite actor, the one thing about Shia that I respect is how he was able to transition from being a Disney star to being one of the better actors of his generation, quote unquote Brad Pitt, on the promotion of Fury. But Austin Butler kind of has the same background as Shia. Austin Butler started off at Disney, if I recall correctly, and look at what he's been doing lately. Elvis, Masters of the Air, Dune. Like, Austin Butler, he definitely has a lot going for him right now, and I gotta respect it. I'm just saying that me personally, my favorite actors, Shia number one, of course, Ryan Gosling right behind him. And then after that is a clusterfuck. We got Emil Hirsch, we got Joseph Gordon-Levitt, we got Robert Pattinson. So I got to see a little bit more from Austin Butler to see if he's going to crack my favorite actors. But I'm definitely looking forward to it. One itty bitty little thing before I wrap up the episode is like the lengths that they went to make Austin Butler look like, just a god on screen, just like oiling him up and just the gel in his hair, and it was just like, oh my God, Hollywood is really going for it, man. Hollywood's really going for it, and I mean, I can't blame him. I mean, he's a good-looking guy, so cool. But guys, that's it for today's episode. If you're checking this episode out on any of the podcast streaming platforms, first and foremost, remember to rate, review, and subscribe. If it's Apple, if it's Spotify, if it's Amazon Music, wherever you're listening to it, rate, review, and subscribe. That'll be a big help for the podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube and you're watching my pretty mug right now, stop what you're doing, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Again, like I said in previous videos, I'm going to be coming out with more videos specifically talking about movies. I have a couple of movie reviews that I still got to record. But until next time, guys, thank you for checking out this episode. And until next time, I'll check you out on the next episode of the Time Flies podcast. Peace.